Toastmasters International. That's our very first reason. What's the other reason that we want publicity? Why else would you be doing this job? Helping us get publicity. What's in it for you?
To get more members.
Your name, please. Is that Neil?
Sorry, Erich. It's Paul from Stellenbosch.
Okay, Paul from Stellenbosch. Yes. Okay, Marion Thomas with you to get more members. Good. Very good. What else? What's in it for you, do you think?
Knowledge about how to...
just let me... okay, Judith, go first.
Knowledge about how to improve my own business as well. So
thank you. How to improve my own business. Thank you, Judith. Lovely. Alison, Lily, go.
I would say also to get recognition for members who achieve remarkable things.
Fantastic. Lovely, Alison. Lynette, talk.
I'm just enjoying listening, and I'm pleased I'm in. We all want publicity to increase our visibility and to increase our membership.
So Judith had a very good one. She says, how do I improve my own... Oh, I see your kids are on their way to bed. How do I improve my own business using these skills? So that's an important thing. You see, in Toastmasters, we're always trying to say, what's in it for me? And I also tell my corporate clients that, what's in it for me? Because if there's nothing in it for me personally, then when the going gets tough, I might get going instead of the tough getting going. You see what I'm saying? So there must be something in it personally for you. I think one of the beautiful things that this job will offer you is the ability to see an angle, and it will firstly help you with your speaking skills. There's no question about that. It will also help you, of course, with your publicity skills, with your writing skills, but most importantly, it should help you with your own personal branding. Why is that? David asked about how do I get people how do I write compelling content to make people follow my blog? And there were 2 or 3 other people who also asked me, how do I get people to follow my blog? And if you think about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is actually a blogging platform. So that way we can use these skills to improve our own personal visibility. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And if we see that there's something in it for us, we'll be more inclined to want to develop these skills. Okay, Davison, you can only see Erich because Erich is the only presenter. So if you don't like looking at me, sorry. I'm so sorry about that. So that's why we want publicity. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the media. What is it do you think that the media sells? So you can write your answers there, or you can unmute your mic. And as you unmute your mic, your name will flash up. And as before, I'll nominate you to speak. Go. What do you think the media sells? So that's a picture of a gift or a present. And if I say that our media is, in fact, a box, what's inside the box that the media sells? So, for example, I sell media training. That's part of what I sell. That's inside my box. Judith says ideas and opinions. Good. That's absolutely right. Alison says the media sells promises. Lovely. What else does the media sell? I'm not seeing the same buttons that Margie describes or names. Okay. The media sells itself. The buttons are either on the top, David, or I've got a panel on the right-hand side. They are hard to spot sometimes. Tamash and Justine. Tamash says information, and Justine says emotions. Ben Rava says also information. So we've got emotions, information, we've got promises, ideas and opinions, news, good. We'll talk about news and current affairs in a moment. I'm going to say the following thing. What does the media sell? The media sells audiences. If you think about what does the media send out invoices for? The media sends out invoices for advertising, doesn't it? So if you think about the media, if I had an opportunity, I would have to take out an advert in Financial Mail. I would have to take out an advert in Business Day. I would have to take out an advert in Accountancy SA, and probably in Business Report as well, which is the weekly out of the Independence table. And I would probably have to get hold of the Beelt as well and get hold of their business section. and the SARCA report. And if I advertise in those 5 places, I can probably get to all of the accountants in the country. Do you think you agree with me? Is that a yes?
No.
Who agrees with me? Just write yes in your thing. Yes, good. Fantastic. So the media is selling, think about this, the media is selling the promise of access to an audience. Let's say I want to advertise on a point. Alison would love that. Now, Alison's job is to write to Toastmasters. And how does she do that? She tries to make the most compelling audience, the most compelling content that she thinks Toastmasters will enjoy. We can't force people to read on a point. So we can sell the ad and we can say, according to our information, 50% or 40% or 60% of District 74 Toastmasters read on a point. We also know we've got ex-Toastmasters reading on a point. We know that. But if I said to you, I have a surefire way. I have a magazine, and I will hand deliver this magazine to every single Toastmaster that is currently a member of Toastmasters District 74. Would the advertiser go for that? Of course they would. If I said I had a surefire way of reaching every accountant in Southern Africa, in South Africa, every chartered accountant, would the advertiser go for that? They definitely would. And that is why Google is such a threat to mainstream media. Because what does Google sell? Somebody told me Google sells eyeballs. When we write a search request that says, please show me all the accountants in South Africa, Google will tell us that. And we didn't have to buy a business day, we didn't have to buy a business report, a SARCA report, an accountancy essay, or a build. We didn't have to buy any of those things. But we can still get access to all of those media, all of those accountants. Can you see what's happening now? So, what is the definition of news? Somebody said, there you are. Advertising provides access, the promise of access, to a market. Does that make sense? Now, what is the definition of news? There are 2 things. So this is the next section. So the first section is, what does the media sell? It sells the promise of access to an audience. That's incredibly important. We'll come back to that in a moment. What is the definition of news? The definition of news is it has to be new. And new simply means unreleased. In other words, if something happens now about the Marikana reports, and Piet Pompies actually was the guy who gave the order. Now that is information that's been around since 2011 when I was in the United States, 2012. I landed in the United States. I was sharing a room with David Priest. And I woke up in the morning and then it was flames. I thought for a week, and you guys can't keep it together, you're killing each other. What the hell's going on? It was very depressing. That was a joke. It's very, very funny. So what is the definition of news? It has to be new, unreleased. So if Piet Pompies is the guy who gave the order at Marikana, Marikana is a 3-year-old story, but because it's new information that's only now coming to light, that makes it news. That's the first thing. The second thing about news is that it has to affect 100% of the target audience. News has to be new, unreleased, and it has to affect 100% of the target audience to make the front page. Otherwise, it's not news. So now I'm going to ask you a question. When you are writing your blog or your content, what is the first question you need to ask yourself? And the question is, what do you think it is? You can write to me in the little page. Is it news? Correct. That's a good one. Is it news? Is it new or unreleased? Does it affect 100% of the target audience? Good. Margie says, what does my audience want? Is it relevant? Karen says, is it relevant? Justine says, is it relevant? Correct. Now, what is the definition of relevant? Relevant to whom is my normal retort. What does it mean, relevant? It has to be relevant to whom? There has to be relevance to the target market, not the newspaper or magazine. In other words, we do not write for the business day. We write for the business day's audience. We do not write for the Bild. We write for the Bild's audience. Our job is to deliver compelling content to the target markets. The target markets, not to the newspaper. I'll give you a stupid example. Let's say I'm 60 years old and I'm a chain smoker. And you can see I've got a beard. So fast forward sort of 5 years to when I'm 60. That's a joke. And let's say I take up smoking in a very serious way, and I decide to freelance as a journalist again. So I'm freelancing as a journalist, and Cosmopolitan phones me up and says, please do me a feature on women in leadership. And I walk into Maria Ramos's office. I have a smoke outside, so I walk in. I'm slightly scruffily dressed. I'm 60 years old. I walk into Maria Ramos's office. Who am I representing if I'm working for Cosmopolitan? Is it men or women? Women. How old are the women? Now, Vanessa Raffaeli, the editor of Cosmopolitan, put it very beautifully. She says, it's women in their freedom years. What does that mean? After they've started working, so they've got some money, but before they settle down to have kids. So, who is my audience? When Maria talks to me, who is she actually talking to? A 60-year-old heavy smoker who wears bad clothes? No. She's talking to a woman in her freedom years who's interested in what? Is she interested in cooking? No. She's in her freedom years. She hasn't got married. She's interested in sex, relationships, fashion, and the world of work. Can you see what's happening? And the questions that I ask as a journalist are not for me, Erich, they are for my audience. So can you see how the journalist who's sitting in front of you or the magazine that's sitting in front of you is not the magazine or journalist. What's sitting in front of you is the audience. You have to see through that person and into the audience. I'm going to give you 4 ways, well, 3 ways really, of breaking down an audience. Are you ready? There are 3 ways to think of an audience. The first way is geographic. Geographic. From the Greek word geos, meaning earth. Where is the audience? I'll give you an example. If I talk about the Star newspaper, the Star newspaper is a Johannesburg paper. Now, can you buy the Star in Pretoria? Yes, you can. I have, in fact, bought a Star in Pretoria. Is it a Pretoria newspaper? It is not. It covers news from Joburg. There is a Pretoria newspaper. It's called the Pretoria News. The Mercury, where is the Mercury? It is Durban. The Witness. The Witness is not Durban. The Witness is Pietermaritzburg. Can you see what's happening here? Now, if you think about, there's a VPPR now from Stellenbosch. Paul, tell me, what is your local newspaper in Stellenbosch? There's bound to be a local little newspaper there. Just type it for me, please, because you cut out there slightly, please. And, you know, if I think about Ben Rabe, okay, there's a Sandton Chronicle. Ben is the VPPR for Sandton Club. There's a newspaper around the corner from me at Greenside. In Somerset West, it's the District Mail. Now, those newspapers, Eikestad, there's another one. So, Eikestad in Stellenbosch, the District Mail in Somerset West. So these are very, very local newspapers. And those are the easiest and best papers to get into. In Pinetown, it's the Highway Mail, for example. Thank you, Marty. So in Pinetown, it's the Highway Mail. And those are easy newspapers to get into because they're hungry for local news. All right. And we'll talk about how to get into them in a moment. But can you see the first category is geographic. The second one is demographic. There you are. Andrew says the Harare Chronicle. The second, I'll talk about the Malawians and the Zimbabweans and the Zambians in a moment. I've had some experience there. Yeah, so Somerset West, Carol Ann says, if you write an article and send it to the district mail with a photo, they will usually publish it. And they will always publish it for free. They never ask you for money. So why do they do that? Because when people read about themselves, that's local news, and that's what makes compelling content. We want to read about ourselves. Somebody once said, a newspaper is a nation talking to itself, and that's what a good newspaper should be. All news is local. The second kind of way of breaking down an audience is demographics. Now, we have that in Toastmasters, a demographic. And what does that mean? It comes again from the Greek, demos, meaning person. And demographic means stuff about ourselves. Am I a man or a woman? How old am I? What language do I speak? So stuff that is inherent in me. I'm a man, I'm 6 foot tall, so there might be a Big and Tall magazine aimed at people like me. I wear size 11 shoes. I am in my late 40s. I've got 3 kids. So these are things about me. So I might be in the market, and I'm soon going to be in the market now, for parenting tips for teenagers, because I've got a 9-year-old, and he's going to be 10, because that's just the way it goes, you know, and then after that it'll be 11. And so I'm going to be leaning on my PDG friends and colleagues to say, how did you do it? What did you do? And I'm going to be in the markets demographically as a parent of teenagers. Right now, I'm a parent of tweens, right? So that's demographic. So the first one is geographic, where do you live? The second one is demographic, who are you? And the third one is psychographic, what are you interested in? So under those, I say, for example, the engineering newspapers or the accounting newspapers. Does that make sense? So if I'm an accountant, I want to read the accounting newspapers. If I'm a Johannesburger, I'll read the Johannesburg papers. If I'm a medical doctor, I'll read the medical newspapers. So does that make sense? Thank you. For all of those people offering me their 18-year-olds, that's very kind. You know, thank you so much. I think I'll grow my own. Unless you're offering them for babysitting services, I'm in the market for babysitting services. Okay, so those are the 3 ways of segmenting an audience. Is this being useful? Are we getting? I'm getting very little feedback, just because it's quite hard, I suppose. But it's just quite strange for me not to be able to get the feedback. I've got a little slide here that says, our job then is to make the audiences jump into the medium. That's weird. Why is that? It's because we can't force people to read or to consume our media. We can't force them to buy the Marie Claire. We can't force them to buy the Men's Health. We can't force them to buy. We can't force them to listen to the music, to listen to the radio or watch television. The only thing we can do is persuade them. Somebody wanted to write for influence. Our job then is to persuade people that our article is so interesting that they want to jump into our article. And that is why the newspapers will even bother talking to us, because they're hoping that we have got compelling content that they will be able to publish to make sure that their audiences read their paper. And why is that important? Because what are the audiences, what do the magazines sell? What does the media sell? The media sells audiences. I want you to think of your blog as a magazine. Because if you thought of your blog as a magazine, you would think, who is my target market? Who am I trying to reach? And you'll find that when you think about your ideal reader, you'll all of a sudden understand what is it that they want to read. And if you make that article compelling, then they will want to read it and they will come back again and again. Oh, we've got a new one. Grant Thornton, Botswana. Welcome, Shakshi, Shukla, Tobela, or I should say Dumela, Shakshi, Shukla.
Yes, Dumela, that's right. Thank you.
Hey, Ubositswana na.
Eh.
Wow. We've got Botswana, we've got Zambia, we've got
following there.
Okay, you can mute your microphone by pressing the microphone, and the microphone will go red. And at some point when you unmute the microphone, then we'll be able to hear you. Now, how do we make sure that we can write compelling content? How do we make those audience members jump? I have some tips for you. Would you like to know what they are? Yes, I'm sure you would. I have 7 specific techniques that you will be able to use to make your articles compelling. And if you use these tips, you will make sure that these people will jump into your content. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that it has to be unusual. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I've got here a headline from The Sun: Women strip thief naked. That's not very, you don't see that every day, right? Another one here: man cuts off penis in restaurants. In London, nogal. This is not something that you see every day. In journalism, we have a joke, and the joke is, dog bites man. That's not news. Man bites dog. That's news. So, does this pass the news test? Does it appeal to 100% of the target market? Well, think about the Daily Sun. I don't know if you're familiar with the Daily Sun. It's essentially a tabloid. The guy's done extremely well with that in South Africa. It costs R1 to buy the Daily Sun, and it's read by the people in taxis. So it's a quick read. It's a very sensationalist read, and often it'll talk about penises and vaginas and muti, and it's very, somebody's talking about sensational. Do we get to publish the weird things? The weirder, the better. The weirder, the better. One-armed Toastmaster is DTM. That's unusual. You don't see very many one-armed Toastmasters. Blind, Lois Strachan, past district governor, is blind. That's unusual. We don't see blind people in the news very much. So these are unusual things. So do you have anything unusual about your club? Do you maybe have a Hungarian in your club? This is unusual. I'm joking, Tomasz. I'm trying to make a joke. But, I mean, jokes aside, Tomasz is the second Hungarian I've met at Toastmasters. And so maybe someone in Hungary is interested in knowing how well the Hungarians are doing in Transformers Club. And what made the Hungarians join Toastmasters? There used to be a joke in Hollywood, and the joke was, you don't have to be Hungarian to succeed in Hollywood, but it does help. Because in the 1940s and 50s, Hollywood was dominated by Hungarians. I don't know if you know that. I mean, Tomasz will know that, and he will tell you all the names. Okay. Oh, Tomasz is in the Toastmasters Klanga, and of course, Transformers.